Joey of the Chalet School. Chapter 23. Joey's future career is settled. As might have been expected, the first person to wake that morning was Joey. It was barely 6 o'clock when she stirred, opened her eyes to her fullest extent, and then sat up, wide awake. As the Petit Chalet was far from fit for them to be in it, the juniors were still sleeping over in the chalet, and were likely to remain there for 2 or 3 nights longer, so sleeping arrangements were, as Grizel had remarked the night before, rather on the crowded side. Joey stretched herself luxuriously and then glanced down at the robin, who lay in the profoundest slumber, her dark curls all rumpled, her lovely little face flushed with sleep. "Darling," murmured the elder child, "I hope we can keep her for ages. It's just like having a little sister of my own. She is a pet." It was not in Joey Bettany, however, to spend time over thoughts like these. She had a horror of anything approaching sentimentality, and except when she was well off her guard, never voiced her affection for other people. Now she slipped cautiously out of bed, and hunted for her dressing-gown and bedroom slippers. She wriggled into them with an eye on the couch where her elder sister lay sleeping as peacefully as a baby, and then, catching up her towel and her clothes, made for the bathroom. 10 minutes later she galloped out and tried to do something with her mop of hair. Then she got into her gym tunic and caught up her slippers beside the bed, and tiptoed cautiously from the room, leaving the other two blissfully unconscious of her disobedience to Dr. Jem's orders of the night before. Downstairs Marie was moving about already, intent on getting most of the day's work finished, so that she might go over to La Petite Chalet and help to set it right. Egan was busily stroking the stoves in the form rooms and Miss Bettany's study, with Rufus accompanying him, apparently to see that he did his work properly. Marie looked up from her rolls with a cheerful "Grüß Gott" as Joey dashed into the kitchen demanding something to eat, but Egan was far too busy to pay attention to anyone. Marie rose at this occasion with a roll and some cheese, and Joey wandered forth into the fresh spring air, munching happily. She was wildly curious about Dr. Jem's remarks of the night before, and spent her time in wondering what it was he was going to tell her. Of his hint that she should hear only if she had been good, which she supposed meant if she had obeyed his orders, she took no notice. As a matter of fact, she had forgotten it, and she only remembered when she went in to seek a coat, as the morning air was sharp. "Goodness!" she gasped, and collapsed on the lowest stair where she had been standing. Then, "Oh, but he couldn't be such a mean person. He just wouldn't do that." A little doubt as to whether the doctor would really keep his word crept into her mind. Finally she put her coat away again, took off her slippers, and stole upstairs in a stocking feet. A minute later Madge was rudely awakened from a thrilling dream by a scarlet-faced Joe shaking her. "Madge, Madge, wake up, do!" Madge sat up in bed, pushing back her hair from a startled face. "Joey, what is it? Are you ill?" She stretched out a hand to feel Joey's forehead. "Oh, no," said Joe promptly, as if she and illness of any kind were utter strangers. "I'm not ill in the least, only I got up after Dr. Jem said I wasn't to until he came, and now perhaps he won't tell me what he said he would." "Shh, shh," warned Madge, glancing across the bed where the robin was sleeping. "Don't wake Robin. Here, sit down on the edge here. You are an idiot, you know, Joey. You seem all right, but I do think you might have remembered." "I'll go back to bed if you like," suggested Joey in very subdued tones. Madge considered the idea for a moment. "No, I don't think you need to do that, as you are fully dressed. You certainly look as though there was nothing wrong with you." "I've just eaten a roll and cheese," said Joe, as if this were a guarantee of her all rightness. The elder girl relaxed and bit her lip to stop herself from laughing. You really are awful. All right, I'll tell the doctor I said you might. Madge, you Jim! Joey hugged her sister vigorously. Then he will tell me what it was he was going to. I do wonder what it is. Well, it's no use asking me, for I haven't the least idea. He hasn't said a word to me about it, declared Madge, as she threw back the bedding and got out of bed. Reach my slippers over there, Joey. That's a good child, thanks. She put them on and then went across to the bed and bent over the robin. News from Russia was very scarce, and Madge could not forget the pretty Polish mother who had died in decline. She was almost more careful of her youngest pupil than she was of her delicate sister. Luckily, the robin was sleeping healthily, and they had been very quick in getting her home. She's all right, isn't she? Asked Joe. Yes, I think so. Now, you can trot. I'm going to dress, and then I'm going round to see the others. Put on your big coat if you want to go out. Tell Marie I shall be down presently, will you? Joe nodded and left the room. Going downstairs, she started whistling an air, and was promptly caught by Miss Maynard and fined. Whistling was forbidden in school, and Joe had simply asked for trouble, as the mistress reminded her in somewhat caustic language. Joe had nothing to say for herself, and listened meekly to Miss Maynard, shooting away downstairs as soon as she was free, and giving Madge's message very briefly to Marie, before calling to Rufus and Zita to follow her out of doors. Through the gaps where the fence had been, she could see the Crown Prince Karl and Post, the Zindler, and the other hotels. The little valley was full of people working to repair the damage done by the flood. Already workmen were busy rebuilding the veranda of the Crown Prince Karl. The villa, Adalbert, was receiving a fresh coat of paint, and along the banks and stream were men busily engaged in deepening the bed. Joe was so interested that what was going on that she paid no attention to footsteps behind her, and was considerably startled when a strong arm swung her round, and she found herself facing Dr. Jim. "Now then, young lady," he said sternly, "what did I say about bed?" "Madge said I might," began Joey. Then she stopped. She knew better than anyone else that if she had not been up and dressed before her sister woke up, she would have been kept in bed until the doctor's arrival. Joe was nothing if not honest. I was up, and she said I might stay up," she finished. Dr. Jim scowled at her. "Mutiny in the ranks, huh? Why can't you be obedient, you scaramouche? How do you know you're not sickening for something awful?" Like thrush?" said Joe unexpectedly. "Well, no, not quite that. Still, that's not the point." "I know it isn't. I forgot, you see. I did offer to go back." "A lot of use that will be now. Let's have a look at you." Joey promptly put out her tongue and offered him her wrist. He laughed. "You monkey. Well, there's nothing wrong with you so far as I can see. All right. Passed with a clean bill of health." "Oh, then will you tell me what you said you would last night?" pleased Joe, clinging to his arm. "I'm aching to know." "I'm coming to see your sister about 10 o'clock, he replied. "I'll tell you then." "But I'll be having lessons then. Geometry," protested Joe. "Then you can come out of your class for once," he replied. "I want to tell you when your sister is there." "Madge is up now. Oh, do come now and tell us." Joe put forth all her coaxing powers into both voice and face as she spoke, but he was adamant. "It can wait till 10 o'clock. I mean what I say, kid," he added gravely. "It won't do you any harm to wait. Now, I must go. Tell your sister from me to keep the other infants in bed till I come, and you keep out of danger." He was hurrying off, when he suddenly turned and called to the child to him. "Joey, come here, please. Don't you have a singing lesson today?" "Yes, why?" demanded Joey, staring at him wide-eyed. "Mr. Denny is ill," explained the doctor. "I am just going to him." "Oh, poor Plato. Do you want me to tell Madge for you?" "Yes, please. Will you say that I'm afraid he will be ill for a while? And look here, just keep it to yourself for a little bit." "All right," nodded Joe. "I'll tell Madge, but no one else. Good girl," he said. "You'll get your reward all right, at 10 o'clock." This time he really did depart, and Joey was left to return to the house, where she encountered her sister, who asked where she had been. "Plato's ill," said Joe in reply. "Do you mean you have been to the Albert?" demanded Madge. "No, I met Dr. Jim, and he told me to tell you." "Oh, and he's coming to see you at 10 o'clock. He's going to tell me then." "Joey, talk sense," cried her sister in exasperated tones. "Tell you what?" "What he said he would. The others are to stay in bed, by the way, until he comes. I say, Madge, I think Plato must be awfully bad. The doctor said he'd be ill for a while." "Will that mean no singing lessons?" "I don't know." Madge looked worried. "Don't say anything to the others, Joe. Mr. Denny is not strong, you know." "He behaved like a brick the other night," replied Joey. "No, I shan't say anything. Dr. Jim told me not to. Is breakfast nearly ready?" During breakfast it was noticeable that Joey Bettany was unusually quiet. This state of affairs lasted right through the bed-making period, and when Frida asked her to come for a run by the lake before school, she was startled by the answer she received. "Sorry, but I can't. Too busy." "But you do nothing," protested Frida. "I'm doing a lot. I'm thinking," replied Joey with dignity. "Mind you don't hurt your brain, then," jeered Grizel, who was passing and had heard. Joe said promptly, "All right, Frida, I'll come after all, I think. Race you there." And she set off at top speed, followed by Frida, who was waking up, and very different person from the shy junior who had come to the Chalet School 3 terms before, although she was still much quieter than the others. Rufus, who had been ambling along beside his young mistress, uttered a wild yelp and flung himself after her. They tore madly down the path, nearly fell over a group of prefects who were busily discussing the examinations which lay only a week ahead, and wound up their wild career by collapsing in a heap at Mr. Ant's feet. "Get up," she said severely when she had recovered her breath. "Get up at once, both of you. Frida, I am surprised at you. Joe, what does this behavior mean? Take that dog to the back and to his proper place, and please don't race about in this mad way again." They got meekly to their feet, and Joe, calling Rufus to order, he was rolling wildly in the grass, led him off to his own quarters. Then, as the first bell rang, just then, she made her way to the form room to get her books out of the first lesson. It is to be feared that the very little sense was to be got out of younger Miss Bethany during that period. She listened blandly to Mr. Ant on the subject of similes and metaphors, and when invited to show how much she had learnt by explaining what a simile was, absently murmured something about a cake eaten in Lint in Yorkshire, an answer that created quite a sensation. Mr. Ant was righteously indignant, but much of what she had to say passed harmlessly over Joe's head, for that moment she caught sight of the doctor walking up the path, and was at once lost to the world. 15 minutes later, Marie Marini came to ask if Joey Bettany might please go to Madame in the study. Joey scarcely waited for permission to go. She scampered down the passage and literally fell into the study. The doctor was there, and Miss Bettany sitting opposite him, her eyes bright, her cheeks vivid with excitement. As her little sister came in, she held out a hand to her. "Come here, Joey, dear. I am proud of you." Joe went to her sister's side. Proud of me? Why, Madge? Listen to what Dr. Russell has to say to you, replied Madge, slipping an arm round her slender waist. Joey turned, big black eyes gleaming with excitement, on the doctor. Do you remember writing your Elsie book, Joey? She asked. Joey nodded dumbly. She couldn't speak. Someone showed me the story in the solution, he went on. I liked it. It's good. You know, Joey, you have told the tale simply and freshly. I heard of a competition for children. £10 was offered as a prize for the best short story written by a boy or girl under 18. There was a second prize of £5 and another of £1. I thought your little tale might have a chance, so I copied it out and sent it. Yesterday I had a letter from the judge. He handed it over, and Joe took it with hands which literally trembled. It was addressed to Miss Josephine Bettany, care of James Russell. But she had not time for that at present. She tore it open, and a typewritten letter with a crackly piece of paper wrapped in it fell out. Madge picked it up, and Joey unfolded it. For a moment the printing danced before her eyes. Then the words settled themselves, and she was able to read it. There was a long sentence. Then she turned to her sister. Madge, they've given me the second prize. The £5 prize is mine. Here it is. She held the £5 note out to her sister, not knowing what else to do. Madge took it and then pulled the child down to her level. Joey, I'm so glad. Then Jo disgraced herself for once in her life. Burying her head on her sister's shoulder, she burst into tears and cried as she had not done for ages. Madge held her close, patting and soothing her, till the outburst was over. Then Jo suddenly sat up. Her eyes were swollen and red, and so was her nose, but this in no way distracted from her sudden sense of importance. This settles it, she announced, with a hiccup. I'm going to start in right now and be an author. Chapter 25. The End of Term. Goodbye, Wanda. Goodbye, Marie. Sure you've got everything? Goodbye, Paula. I hope you will have a very happy holiday. Auf Wiedersehen, Madame. We wish you the same. We'll send you postcards from Prague, if we may. Please do. Goodbye. Enjoy yourselves in Cologne. Ready, Margia? Goodbye, then. Remember me to your mother. The last of the early people scrambled into the little mountain train, which was running once more. They waved their hands excitedly out of the windows. There was a puff and a jerk, and they went off. Madge Bettany, standing on the path with her small sister, the robin, waved to them, and then turned back with a sigh of relief. Let's go back to the Frühstück, observed Joey, tucking her arm through her sister's. I'm panting with hunger. You look it, laughed Madge. All right, come along. Tired, Robin? The robin shook her curly head. No, thank you, but I should like some milk. You shall have it when we get back. Marie is sure to have it ready, because of the Munches and the Marinis and the Steinbrooks are going by next train, and Miss Durant is taking Evandine, Juliette, Griselle, and Rosalie to Urbrock by the 10 o'clock bus. We shall be empty, sighed Jo. Yes, but only till midday. Then we and Miss Maynard go off to the Paris-Wien Express, and we shall be in England on Saturday. Why didn't Mademoiselle wait and go with us? Asked Joey. Because Signor de Ricci wanted Vanna home as soon as possible, and she had to change at Innsbruck. It was easier for all the Italian girls to go together, and for Mademoiselle to take the French girls and look after them all. I see, said Jo thoughtfully, and Miss Maynard is at Sparts to put the early people on the proper trains, I suppose. Madge nodded. Yes, now you know all about it. Yes, I know that, and I know we're going to stay with Miss Maynard in the New Forest, which is gorgeous. But isn't there something else? How do you mean, something else? I don't know, only there's a sat-on sort of feeling, as if something thrilling were going to happen. In a way, you're right. I hope to go to the big guiders' camp to train for a week while we are in England. When? Demanded Joey excitedly. Oh, Madge, are we starting the guides for certain, sure, next term? We are indeed. For when I think it's the second week of the holidays, you and Robin will be with the Maynards by yourselves. You know we are going to London to stay with the aunts for a week, don't you? Yes, and I jolly well wish we weren't. Hush, Joe. You are not to say things like that. They want us, and we couldn't possibly be in England and not go to see them. They would never forgive us if we did that. Well, I know it's jolly decent of them and all that, but they bore me, declared Joe. They will talk about taking care and say I'm delicate and fuss and fuss and fuss, till I want to say things I shouldn't. Miss Bethany laughed. Poor old thing. What an awful state of mind. However, you needn't worry. I don't think they'll fuss over you this time. The troll has certainly made a big difference to you. You don't look like the same girl. I know I'm fatter, and I've grown heaps. That frock I had this time last year won't go near me. Well, what do we do after London? You two go down to Winchester on Monday, where Miss Maynard will meet you and take you to her home. I shall come the following Monday. We leave England on the 25th and get back here about the 29th. School begins on May the 2nd. Now you know that the holiday plans, and I hope you'll both be satisfied. Razza, said Robin emphatically, but Joe looked doubtful. Madge shot a glance at her. There was more to tell, but she felt that she would rather keep it until they were by themselves, and she could explain things thoroughly. However, they reached the school just then, and there was no time for more, for Marie was ringing her meal, and they had to hurry to get to the table in time. It was a festive meal. All rules were in abeyance, and the people left chattered all at once, and in wild mingling of English and German, which made the Chalet School sound more like the monkey house at the zoo than anything else. When it was over, there was a scramble to finish up the oddments and see to the locking up of the cupboards. The chalet was to be closed for 3 weeks, during which Marie and Egan would be at home, taking Rufus with them, and Zita had to go back to her owners, who had been almost hysterically grateful to Miss Bethany for her care of the great dog during the winter. Herr Brahm had undertaken to keep an eye on the place, and also to have the new fence put up while Miss Bethany was away. He had 1 or 2 schemes of his own, which related to the rolling of the cricket pitches and the tennis courts, the planting of a flower garden, and so on. Of these, however, he said nothing as yet. 9 o'clock brought Herr Minch up to the Brassau to escort the Innsbruck girls back to their own city, and to offer Miss Bethany a basket of little cakes from Frau Marini and his wife to be eaten on the journey. And there is chocolate for the children. When he had gone off with his charges, Miss Durant was taken down to the steamer with hers. They were to catch the bus to Scholastica and go by it to the nearest town, just over the border into Germany. Then they would take the train to Arbach in the Black Forest. It was a roundabout journey, but all the people concerned had plumped for it, and declared that it would be far more fun than going via Innsbruck and Munich. At last the Bethanys and Robin were alone, and as they walked slowly round the lake to the Seespitz to catch the mountain train to Sparts, Madge told her news to the 2 little girls. "Do you remember how ill poor Mr. Denny has been?" she began. "Yes," said Joey soberly, "but he's better now." "Yes, he's better now," agreed her sister. "Dr. Jem says that so long as he remains up here in the mountain air, he will be fairly all right. But he is to go still higher. Do you remember the day we climbed the big mountain last summer?" "I wasn't there," said the robin reproachfully. Madge smiled at her. "No, I know you weren't, but Joey remembers. Rather." said that young lady. Is he going up there? Yes, they are building a huge place, a sanatorium up there in the little village of the Sonalp, and Dr. Jim is going to take charge of it. He won't live there. He's going to have a chalet built above the village, where he will live. Coo! Won't he be lonely? Queried Joe with interest. A little smile edged Madge's lips. At first, he may, but it won't be for long. You see, he's going to be married. Joey stood stock still in the middle of the path. Married? Who to? Oh, how absolutely rotten of him! Joey, Madge fairly gasped. Well, it is. Oh, he is mean. I just hate him, said Joey, turning and walking on, frowning heavily. Joey! Madge's voice was sharp with dismay. Why, I thought you liked him so much. I did. I don't know. I think he's a pig. I'll never speak to him again. But Joey, why? Madge was so much upset that she forgot to scold Joey for her language. To go and get married to a beastly stranger. The elder girl's face relaxed. Oh, but it isn't a stranger, Joey dear. Joey looked sharply, then slowly colored, flushed her face. Madge! Yes, Joey. Madge's eyes were starry, and she looked lovely as she smiled at her little sister. You won't hate him, dear Joey, when he is your brother. Joey's answer was to fling her arms round her sister, nearly upsetting the pair of them into the lake, and hugging her vehemently. Oh, Madge, really, truly? Oh, I'm so glad. I've wanted it for ages. He's such a dear, nearly nice enough for you. The whistle of the engine interrupted them, and they had to tear across to the train, and only just got to it in time. There were very few passengers, and no one but themselves in their carriage, so Madge finished her story on the way down. We shan't be married for a year at least, Joey. Probably will be 2 years. I want to see the school well beginning, and he has to establish his sanatorium. And I'm young yet, so I shall be head of the Chalet School for some time yet. When we are married, you and Robin will live with us, till you have a home of your own, Robin. Your father is leaving Russia and coming to be Jim's secretary up here. Isn't that splendid? Robin snuggled closer. I am so glad, Tante Marguerite and Monsieur le Docteur. We will be my uncle then, huh? And Papa and Zoe too? Zoe, you shall call my Papa uncle too. Oh, it will be nice. Nice, Joey repeated her words rapturously. It'll be gorgeous. Oh, Madge, it's just the very nicest, splendidest of all our adventures. Madge looked down at the slender ring on her left hand, where a sapphire glowed in the sunshine, blue as the waters of the Tarnsee under the summer sky, and smiled softly to herself. I think so, too, she said. The end. That was Joe of the Chalet School. I really enjoyed that version. I think I liked it better than the first one, but the first one's exciting, too, because you get to see how they all started the school. It's called School at the Chalet, and I read that, too, and it's available to listen to on my website. The next story we're going to read is called The Story of the Treasure Seekers by E. Nesbitt. And it's about some children who are seeking their fortune and do all kinds of crazy things and have adventures. And it's pretty funny. So join us for that. And also, we're on YouTube now. So if you go to Miss Retro Reads on YouTube, everything comes up. And I put all of the books on a playlist. So if you go to the playlist section and you see one book you want to read, like Freddy the Pig 2 and Again, you just press on that and it will play the whole book in a row. So that's pretty easy. You don't have to click on each episode. Thanks for listening and join us for the next book, The Treasure Seekers.